I have my own planner. You can find it in hardcover or spiral. And I just say it's like having a conversation with yourself, like, how do you want to start the month? What vibe do you want? You can put your quote of the month, then you can track your mood during the day, every day, and things like that. And what are you grateful for? Because gratitude is very important to me. And then at the end of the month, you can come back and then put like what you're proud of, what made you happy, what do you need to improve. So it's like coaching yourself through it. So you can find it at butterflydreams.co, and then you have a 15% discount using code first purchase, just as a gratitude for your support. So check my planner and other products at butterflydreams.co. Hello, and welcome to Life with Francy Podcast, a place where you will find conversations about mental health, business, trauma, life in general. I want to create a safe place where we can be ourselves, talk about our stories, and feel love no matter the journey. Thank you for being here. Hope you enjoy this episode. Now, let's get the show started. Today's conversation was thanks to Women in Podcasting. Jennifer Hensel has done it amazing having a group where women can support one another. She shared tools and resources, and now she has her own awards. So you can go and nominate your podcast. So go and check it out or support by being a sponsor. Go check it out, womaninpodcasting.net, and then you can find her groups and all her information. And on today's episode, I have the pleasure to talk to Eileen Joy, who is a money coach. And I am very excited to have this conversation with her. So, welcome to the show, Eileen. What is life with you? And I know I'm saying your name wrong. Am I? Huh?
It's Eileen.
Eileen,
Eileen.
sorry. There you go. I should have asked before the podcast interview started. So, what is life with you?
Well, life with me at Starbucks, whenever I give my name, they always get it wrong too. They put Ivy, Wiley, Amy. Everyone gets it wrong.
It happens with me. I got so many names. I just answer to anything.
I'm like, that's mine.
Awesome. So, yeah, welcome to the show. Tell us a
Thank
little bit
you.
about you.
Thank you so much. Life has been so good lately. And years ago, right before I became a money coach was when my life fell apart.
Mm.
And it's like, when you hit rock bottom and you don't really know you're at rock bottom, but you know you're at rock bottom. And now, just in such a short amount of time later, just a few years later, it's like amazing. Just everything is amazing and life is great. And I had gone through a really ugly divorce. And I was a single mom with a 5-year-old. I had to sell my house to pay for my divorce. I had to find a new job because I was working with my sister-in-law at the time, now my ex-sister-in-law.
Mm.
And then my son and I got into a really bad car accident where we both ended up in the hospital. I'm still dealing with a neck injury from that accident. And this was all happening during my divorce and at the tail end of a bankruptcy.
Wow.
And now, years later, my son is now 12. I'm still a single mom and I'm loving it. I'm loving life. Everything is just amazing. And I want that for all women. Right. I am now on this mission to help all women, all moms, all kids. And I just want to scream from the mountaintops, like, life can be amazing. And like, that's where I am right now. I'm just grateful for life. I'm grateful for my son and for just waking up today.
I love it. So, going through all of that, how do you decide, okay, now I want to become a coach?
That's a really fun story, but the quick version is
Oh, we're
it's
here for it. Come on. Let's get comfortable.
all right. So after all that, with my divorce and all the things, right? I lost everything. And for a while I was just kind of, stuck and just, what do I do? And so after I was able to pick myself up off the floor from the fetal position crying, you know, I realized, you know what? I'm a single mom. I have a son. I need to get up. I need to put one foot in front of the other. And I need to take care of my family, you know? And so I was able then to create my support team. And at that time, my support team looked different than it does now, right? But as
Yeah.
women, we need our village, right? And that
Amen
village
to
is
that.
right? It's constantly changing, our village, right? It's just really, it's what do you need now? And a lot of women, a lot of moms, we get stuck, right? We get stuck in the rut of life of, you know, we wake up, we get the kids ready, we do the thing, we work, we, you know, do the errands, we do the kids activities, and, you know, we're going, go, 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 go. And we're expected to do it all. And we get stuck in these patterns of just doing, 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 and not doing anything for ourselves and our own self-care. Or maybe we are, but just not enough. And then we get burned out and overwhelmed. And you know, especially if you're a single mom, it's even harder because you're doing everything. And that's where I was at the time. I was just overwhelmed and burned out and all the things. And so I was able to gather this support team around me. Of what I needed at the time was a great therapist and a divorce support group and friends and family and all the things. And I even got a life coach and you know, everything that I needed at the time. And as I realized that I could do this, you know, and it's okay that I didn't have a partner and it was fine. Everything was fine, but it was my overthinking everything, right? That
Yeah.
made me scared and made me think I couldn't do it and made it harder. And as I was able to pick myself up and put one foot in front of the other and realize that I can do this, I was able to financially fix everything in such a short amount of time. I had a fully funded emergency fund. I was completely debt free. I had to buy a new car because that other car got totaled. And so I had gotten a 6-year car loan for that car. I ended up paying that off in 3 years and completely repaired my credit. Now my credit score is in the almost 850. It's in the, you know, 800s. And it's just amazing. And then also, I was able to fire my financial advisor, and I do all my investments on my own. I teach all my clients to do it on their own. You don't need a financial advisor unless you have a very complicated estate, which the average woman does not.
Yeah.
And and now I'm on track to retire early. Whereas before, I wasn't sure I could retire at all. I thought I was going to have to
Oh
work
my
till the, you
God.
know, my last breath. So,
Yeah, that's how
right,
I feel. So tell me
right.
the secret,
Right. And
please.
that's how everyone feels. It's amazing. 78% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, regardless of
Mhm.
how much money they make. It doesn't matter how much they're making, they're living paycheck to paycheck. And it's because we don't get a financial education in this country or in any country, really. And they don't teach money in school. So we didn't learn it in school. Our kids aren't learning about it in school. And you're just kind of thrown to the wolves and expected to know what to do with your money. And because we don't, we live on loans, we live on a hope and a prayer and wait for my next check. Right. And that's how everyone's living, and everyone's stuck and everyone's scared and everyone's afraid of money. Right. It's the scary thing, but money is vital to our survival. Right. We're the only
Mhm.
humans are the only species on this planet that use money.
Yeah.
Right. And yet we're not taught how to use it. And money can be so amazing and so much fun and so easy if you just know what to do with it. And so it was funny because as I was fixing my life and, you know, everything financially fell into place and everything, my friends were coming to me and asking me for help. They were like, Eileen, how did you do this? You need to show me. And I was like, well, it's rather really simple. Let me show you, you know. And so I just started showing them what I did. And they were like, oh my God, I can't believe how easy this is. And then I started teaching my son. And so I empowered my son with a financial education. And now he's 12 and he does everything on his own. He gets his allowance money and he uses the 4 buckets. And I teach the 4 buckets, which are simply saving, investing, giving, and spending. And so I teach all my moms how to use the 4 buckets. And once you master these 4 buckets, you'll be set for life. And so will your kids. And so now my son, just knowing these simple things, will now be a multimillionaire by the time he's my age. He will
Mm.
never have to worry about money. He will never have to worry about, oh, I'm sitting in a cubicle and I hate my job and I wish there was another way and everything is soul crushing, and he'll have that opportunity of choice. And so now all the moms that I'm helping too will have that opportunity of choice to decide if they want to retire or not, and they'll be able to retire because everyone right now is like, oh, I'll worry about that later, but if you keep pushing it away, it's, unfortunately, it's not going to be able to happen. And that's the scary part because you're
Yeah.
so scared of it that you avoid it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then as you're getting older, you're like, oh shit, you know,
Yeah.
and then, and then you worry later, oh, am I going to have to live in my kid's basement? Right. And so these are the patterns that are happening to everyone. And so as I was showing my friends all of these things, they were telling me all their worries and what they were afraid of. And so we created plans to make that not happen. And then my son, at the time he was so little, he was like, Mommy, you're so good at this, helping other moms. You need to do this. You need to help all the moms. And so we had this conversation and I said, you know what? You're right. I really do. Because we don't know what we're doing. So that's
Mm-mm.
when I started standing on the mountaintops and screaming, I can help you. And it's just been so much fun. And I created a program called Money School for Moms. And I help women one-on-one coaching. And I do all kinds of programs and things with women, and I help them teach their kids so that we break
That's
these
so important.
generational patterns, right? We have to teach the kids so that for future generations, we'll know what to do with the money, right? And then there'll be money to leave,
Mm-hmm.
right? Instead of, leaving with nothing and hoping that your kids are okay after you're gone.
Yeah, we're so used to it. Well, at least here in the United States, because I'm from
Yeah.
Puerto Rico, and in
Yeah.
Puerto Rico, it's like you can't leave me. You're
Right.
50. You're too young to leave the house.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
here in America, it's like you're 18, just go and do your thing. But you didn't give me the tools and resources that I needed to be whatever. I had to figure out things on my own. And now in my 30s, I'm having such a hard time breaking generational curses because nobody taught me about money. So I had to figure it out on my own. And I'm part my mom, I'm part my dad, where my biological father, sorry, own trauma.
Don't be sorry. I hear you.
So biological father, all the responsibility, the hustling and things like that. Well, now that my mom has a job in her 50s, it's different because she's getting that vibe. So I was like, oh, you had it in you all along. But then my mom is like, she smells money and she spends it. It's like, it's not even yours. You just smelled it and you're like, oh, it has to go. So that's how I am. And I'm trying so hard because before it was me, myself, and I, right? No big deal. But now I have other people that I have to depend that depend on me, and it sucks. So when I can't provide, so now I have to do a different. And I know the mindset is like a huge thing, especially
Yeah.
for moms. This I only have 5 seconds on parenting. I always say so I only have 5 seconds in parenting. They just say I got the experience because it's five. So one is out of the house, but four we have to do a lot. So, anyways, so in my 5 seconds of parenting, it's like it's a lot to think about, and we always need something. So, how do you separate the needs from the wants and all that
Yes,
stuff
that
in
is
categories?
huge.
So,
It's so huge. And that's something that I'm teaching my son now as well. And basically, what you're saying is so important because you know it deep down that you don't really know what to do with your money and you love spending it because I grew up that way too. So there's something called a money story, and everyone has their own money story, right? And all the moms that come to me, I want them to tell me their money story and then I help them rewrite it, right? And then if you have kids, you've already programmed their money story. So this is how your money story works. We all learn about money from our parents and our environment. Regardless, if you're sitting down with someone and they're saying, this is what you do with your money, which most of the time does not happen, right? But we're learning just by being. So from the time that you're 0 to 7 is when we're being conditioned and we're learning. And we learn how to be in our environment, in our society, in our culture, wherever we live in the world, right? That's when you learn how to walk, how to talk, how to be, how to live within your social norms, within your society, right? And part of that is money. And so you're learning by just watching and living and feeling and listening to what is being said about money. So, like you said, your mom was a spender, and so was mine, right? So my mom's a spender. She still is. And so
Mhm.
she spends the money and then complains about the bills when they come, right? And my mom's in her 80s now, and she does everything still with a checkbook. She has to handwrite it, put it in an envelope with the stamp, and then she has to drive it to the post office because she doesn't trust the mailman, which is crazy. And I keep saying, Mom, just do it online. I don't do it online, So this is how my mom does it. So she has this big stack of envelopes with a rubber band around it. And she leaves it on the table and she pays the bills. And every time I'm on the phone with her, what are you doing, Mom? Paying the bills. I hate the bills. Like she's always, I'm like, stop spending so much money and you won't have all these bills. But
Mhm.
my dad, he was also a spender and he also had a gambling addiction.
Mm.
So my dad would just take all the money. So both of my parents had great jobs. They made great money, but they never had it. It was gone, right? They would smell it. My mom would smell it and
Yep,
spend it, right?
it's
Same as
gone.
yours. Same as yours. So my sister and I grew up in this household of the money would come in and then my dad would try to take it from my mom from whatever was in there and go to the casino. And
Mm.
they were always fighting, always fighting. The fighting in our house was so intense that my sister and I, we would just stay in our rooms with the doors closed because we didn't even want to come out, right? There was furniture thrown, holes punched in walls, screaming, yelling, and it was always about money,
Mm.
right? So we learned not by sitting down with them, teaching us about money, right? We learned that money causes fights. We don't talk about money because it's scary, right? Someone will yell at you. And then if we asked for something, Mommy, can I have fill in the blank? The answer was always no. Right. And so we learned, money doesn't grow on trees
Mhm.
and all of these things about money. So everything my sister and I learned about money was negative and money's bad and don't even talk about it. Don't worry about money. When you get money, you just get rid of it. Right. So we never saved money. We just would get it. We would get our paychecks with, first job. My first job was at Domino's Pizza. Spent every penny I ever made. Went to the mall, got my paycheck, went to the mall.
Mhm.
Right. And so we learn how to be expert spenders. We are all
Oh
experts
my
at
gosh, I need a
spending,
shirt. I need a
right?
shirt. Expert spender. I love that
Right?
sign.
It's true. It's so true. Like dollar signs everywhere,
Yep.
expert spender, right? And we're teaching our kids to be expert spenders. And it's the things that you say and the things that the people around us are saying and the things and the marketing that we're experiencing, whether it be in a TV show and you see an ad, or if it's online while you're scrolling or whatever. The marketing is created specifically to make you think that your wants are your needs, right? On all, like now that you can't unhear this, I want you to notice, right? When you're looking around at advertising now, you'll see it'll say, you need this or something to that effect, right? They make you think that your wants are your needs. So you're very confused and it all lives in your subconscious, right? Everything, all of our emotions and everything are all wrapped up in money. So when you see something, right, you get that dopamine hit and you're like,
Mhm.
oh, I have to have that, right? You add to cart, right? And then 2 days later, it's at your door. There's a box on your doorstep and you completely forgot what you even bought, right? You pull in your driveway, you see the box and you're like, oh, what did I order? Right?
That's the first question every single time.
What's in the box, right? And and then you're like, oh, I got something. And you're so excited and you open the box and you're like, oh yeah, now I remember when I ordered this, and it's like everything just happens subconsciously. Like you're not even conscious about what you're spending and what you're buying and what you're doing. And like no one's really paying attention. And so that right there is the piece where we need to start being aware and start paying attention. And that's really what starts to help you to figure out how to reverse that, right? And so what I do with my clients is I teach them the money mindset around everything, because money is really 80% mindset and 20% strategy, right? There's just a little bit to know about money, even though when you hear about money and it seems so complicated and all of these things, and it's, oh, I have to learn all these things, but it's really not. Like, it's really very simple. It's just a few little things that you need to learn. But when your mind is constantly taking you out of the game, that's why we're not successful with it, right? And that's why we don't even want to talk about it. Like you hear money and you tune it out. Like you just ignore it. Like, oh, nope, not talking about that, you know? And it's funny because I used to do that too. We all do it until we become aware of like, what really are our priorities? And if you want to stop being a spender, and if you want to stop sniffing and spending, say that 10 times fast, but it's like, you're supposed to be doing something with money. You're supposed to be saving it and supposed to be doing this, and you should be doing this and you should be doing that. And you're shitting all over yourself. Right. And meanwhile, you're like, I don't know how to do that. I don't even know where to start, and that's why all you need to do is take a step back and really figure out, well, what's your money story? How do you feel about money? And like, because every single purchase that you make has an emotion attached to it.
Yeah.
Right? It's either a happy feeling or a really fearful and scared and terrorized feeling, or something in between. And, sometimes it's like when we make a really big purchase, like a house or a car, or like a really large purchase, like, you start sweating
Yeah.
places, right? You don't want to mention. And it's scary. And you're like, I have to sign all these paper, like the paperwork and this, and I don't understand what these words mean, but I have to sign here or I can't have the thing. Right. But we're still not educating ourselves on that either, and it's really important to just say, hey, you know what? I don't know. It's okay to say I don't know, and to find the answer and to ask for help, because that's our problem, is we're not allowing ourselves and giving ourselves permission to feel the shame, right? Because we all have money shame. We're all embarrassed. No one knows what they're doing. No one's talking about it. And we all feel shame. We all feel embarrassed. We all feel scared. But yet this topic of money is so taboo. It's like sex and politics and religion and all of these other topics that are so hard to talk about because they bring up all this emotion.
Yeah.
Right? And they're all different emotions, right? And money and sex, those are really good topics. They're both really enjoyable if you let them be, right? But no one talks about it, right? It's like, shh, we don't talk about money. It's not polite. Sex is behind closed doors, all these things, right? And all these other hot button things. But what I do is normalize the talk of money, right? Like just start talking about it and get comfortable talking about it, especially with your kids. Or even if you have kids in the family, like if you've got, nieces, nephews, cousins, family members, close friends that have kids, like just start normalizing it. Like it's okay to talk about it. We need money. We spend money every single day, right?
Yep.
Every day. And yet we're too scared to talk about it. So one of the things that I do, especially with kids, is just start, right? We just start. You can, depending upon how old they are, like from really little all the way to, even if they're out in college already, it doesn't matter. They're still your kids, right? So you want to just start. So for like little kids, get them a cash register to have in their playroom, right? And the little shopping cart with the plastic food, and let them play store. And, you could exchange money and play with them, get books, board games, all kinds of things. There's so many things to do for money that you can just start incorporating into their life. And then notice the words that come out of your mouth when you talk about money. Are you saying money doesn't grow on trees? You can't have that? Or does grandma and grandpa give your kids a gift, right? Maybe a birthday gift, give them some money. And what do they say? Don't spend this all in one place.
Yeah.
Right? So we're teaching our kids how to be expert spenders. So we need to watch what we're saying before we say it. Right? And so when you're giving your kids an allowance, teach them how to use the 4 buckets. Have them divide their money into the 4 buckets every time they get their allowance. Or from the tooth fairy, or from, holiday money or birthday money, or any time that they get money, right? And then we do this too. Whenever we get a paycheck, we divide it up into the 4 buckets instead of just saying, hello, Amazon, take all my money.
Yeah. I'm bad at that.
We all are. I order from Amazon just like everybody else,
Hmm.
But I mean, that's really what it is. It's just learning a few new things, right? And it's all obviously unlearning what we already know, which is the hard part.
Yeah.
Right. And so for adults, money feels hard because you have to unlearn your spending and you're like, I don't want to stop spending. Right. And it's like, it's kind of like when you go on a diet. Now, I lost 130 pounds 20 years ago.
Oh, wow.
I was 245 pounds and I was always overweight ever since I was a child. And I know the mindset involved with losing weight, right? I was always on a diet as a kid. And like my mom always had, I went to Weight Watchers and I was in elementary school, like always on a diet.
Wow.
And I I know what it's like. Always felt like, oh, I'm on a diet. I can't have the pizza, right? I always felt like I was being deprived of the good stuff, right?
Mm.
And so a lot of people, when they hear that word budget, they're like, ooh, budget. I can't have fun, right? It's like the same kind of feeling, right? Like you
Yeah.
feel like you're going to be deprived of fun or being able to just randomly make that Amazon purchase or whatever it happens to be. But once you really understand how money works and how when you get your money and you divide it up into those 4 buckets, and then you also understand, I also teach what's called values-based spending. And what that simply is you're going to spend money on the things that you value the most. That's what values-based spending is, right? So I teach you how to spend on the things that you really want, right? The things that are really important to you, your priorities, right? Of course, it's your bills, right? We have to pay for our house and our electricity and all of the water, right? Those things are really important. But then also, like, what will make your life happy, right? And that's your values, right? So instead of just going to Target, right? We walk into Target and we go for deodorant and a couple other things, and then we walk out with a cart filled with maybe like $300 worth of stuff, and you forgot your deodorant, right?
Yeah.
Instead of doing shopping that way, we take a step back and we're like, okay, well, what's really important to me? What do I really want to spend my money on, right? Do I want to save money for retirement? Do I want to save money for a really fun vacation, maybe go on a beach with palm trees, right? And all of these things that are super important to you. Like, do I want to send my kid to summer camp this summer so that they're not bored around the house during the summer going, mommy, 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 all summer long, right? And so
Yeah.
it's these things that you can plan ahead for and take your money and move it to those things so that when the time comes, you have the money, right? Like even in my budget, I don't really like calling it a budget, but I use the word budget because that's what most people know, but it's more of like a spending plan, right? So I plan to spend my money in a way that makes me happy. So in my spending plan, I have a line that I call guilt-free fun spending. And so every month I put a certain amount of money in that piece for that month. And sometimes I spend it, sometimes I don't. And I just leave it there. So I basically have, like, if you think of an envelope filled with money, right? I could have like $500 in there, just sitting there waiting for, if I want something like a spur of the moment purchase or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, I use that money. It's there. And I don't have to feel guilty about it because it's there and it has a purpose, right? So if we give our money a purpose, every dollar, right? Every single penny that comes in, we give it a purpose instead of just leaving it there so that you just kind of pick up your phone like and look at your app and be like, oh, I've got money I can spend.
That's me.
Right? Right? Do I have any? What do I have? Do I have enough? Right? And you just look at your app and you're like, yep, got it. Right? And that's why we're always living paycheck to paycheck or living direct deposit to direct deposit, right?
Mhm.
And we're just hoping that next year we'll get a raise that'll give me the raises that we get at work are so minuscule that it hardly even covers, a tank of gas in your car, right?
Mhm.
And it's really sad, right? And that's why they call it the jobs having golden handcuffs, right? They I don't know if you've ever heard
Yeah,
that term,
I did one
right?
time because of my job,
Yeah.
the way I was explaining it. And they're like, yeah, the golden handcuffs. I was like, oh my gosh, I have never heard of that before. But yes, that's exactly it. Because they get you either the benefits or the pay or both or whatever the reason. And it's like nobody teaches you for real that, well, now the kids generation after us, like they know, oh no, there's more to life than this.
Yes.
I told an aunt that I'm trying to do my own thing so I can leave the post office. She told me how ungrateful I was, how people in her generation would have killed for a job like mine. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
hey, but I'm grateful for my job. I'm grateful for what it allows me to, but I just want freedom of time. I
Mm-hmm.
value time more than I do money. I do like my money, and that's why I stay. I go back.
Mm-hmm.
Just like yesterday, I was like, "Oh, I'm quitting for the day." By the time the interview records, it's Thursday night, and I was like, "I'm done. See you later." And they're like, "What? You quitting?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll be back on Monday, but I quit for the weekend."
You know what, though? Everyone feels like that, because now we're waking up. Times are changing, things are changing. And yeah, my parents' generation, your parents' generation, right? It's times were different, things were different. My mom was a teacher and she has a pension from being a teacher, right? And there are still some jobs like government jobs, like the post office and other types of jobs out there where you can have a pension. And that is amazing because
Hmm.
most jobs don't offer
Don't
that
offer
any
that,
longer.
yes.
Right. Right. And there are still some pensions where you'll get some money, but it's still not going to be enough to cover your monthly expenses. So you still need to plan otherwise, right? By having some other type of retirement account that you're contributing to. And
Hmm.
most people just don't have any clue. Like, well, what do I do? I don't know what to do. How do I do that? You know? And then there's people that have corporate jobs that are offered a 401k instead of having a pension or a 403b if they work for like a nonprofit. And there's
Okay.
all types of accounts that are called employer sponsored accounts, like a 401k. Just means
Hmm.
your employer gives it to you, employer sponsored, right? So, and they have all different names, but they're all the same. They're all a
Hmm.
retirement account, right? So you can contribute a portion of your paycheck and then your employer also contributes up to a certain percentage of your paycheck to that account. And then you have to invest it. And no one explains to you how to do that. No one, you
Yeah.
know? And like, even if you go to HR and you ask, they don't even know. And they'll be like, oh, call the plan manager. And then the plan manager doesn't even really understand how to educate you on how to use
Hmm.
it. They just put you in a thing. Like they'll just say, why don't you just use the retirement? They have this specific type of account within the account where you just pick the year that you're planning to retire, and then they automatically invest for you according to that year,
Okay.
whether or not they're going to be like really aggressive or not. And that's all that really is. But it's still, they don't teach you anything. They just say, "We'll just put you in that." And
Hmm.
and then you're still clueless, like, well, what is it invested in? And they have all these really high fees. So that when you finally get to take the money out, a lot of it goes back to them
Hmm.
and taxes, right?
Yeah.
So, right. So, I teach you how to be able to retire tax free, first of all, and also be able to understand what the heck you're doing, right? Like I teach you how to look at your 401k and know what's there and know if you're invested in the right thing for you, what your fees are going to be, and then also how to invest outside of work so that you can be in total control of what you're invested in and understand what the heck it is.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you go to Google University and you type in like, what do I do with my money? You know, a million things come up and then you start reading and you're like, I don't know how to do this. I'm overwhelmed. And you just X out and move on with your life. And then you still are not doing anything. Right. So it's just so important to just take a step back and evaluate your money story. And then notice every time that you make a purchase now, how do you feel? Where are you feeling it in your body? Are you feeling happy about this purchase? Are you super duper excited? And then after the purchase, you feel guilty about making the purchase? Or is it something like you're just dreading, like, paying your bills? And what are your bills? And are these really necessary? Right? And it's like really, really tapping into your emotions because money is so entwined in your emotions. And you could make so many wrong decisions with money just by being afraid.
Yeah.
Right? And so if you notice that you're afraid, stop. Don't make the purchase. Wait a minute. Think about it. You know, like you don't have to. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And it's like there's so much to money. There's so much to it in your mind. Right. But once we
Mindset
can,
is it
it's,
matters.
yeah. And the thing is, like, our kids don't have the same feeling that we do about money because they're still kids, but they're starting to understand how you feel about it
Mm.
because they see it, they watch it, they live it, right? Like for me, it was all the fighting and the scariness of, chairs thrown across the house.
Yeah.
But, it's like, and now that I reflect on that and I learned from that, right? And I take it in an educated way of like, okay, well, when I get paid, I'm not gonna fight about it with people, right? And now I'm on my own, so I don't know how I do everything fight with myself. But I teach my son, and like you can teach your kids, right? You can show them your paycheck, and you can show them these are deductions. This is
Yeah.
what I pay for my health insurance or whatever. Like you just show them like these are taxes. This goes to this goes to that. When you get a paycheck, when you start working, you're going to need to know how to read this, right? And you're going to need to know if it's correct, right? Because there were times that I found mistakes on my paycheck,
Mm-hmm.
right? And if you're not paying attention, you won't ever catch it,
Nope.
right? Right. And so it's like once you just start paying attention to that and then taking your kids shopping, it's so much fun in the supermarket because like I start once I really started paying attention to this, I would see the moms with the kids in the store and especially moms with more than one kid. Stop hitting your brother. Stop touching that. Put that back. Stop, and like all these things when they're in the store. And I was like, why doesn't she just give them a job? Because that's what I do with my son, right? I tell him like this is our list. And this is the amount of money that we're spending today. And I show him. And I have my list on an app on my phone. And we
Mm.
always stick to the list. And I have this awesome app. It's just through Microsoft. It's the To Do app.
Okay.
And the To Do app is awesome for a shopping list. And I label it shopping list, and I have all the items that I always get. And when you touch the little box next to the item, and it crosses it out and it moves it to the bottom, but it doesn't disappear. So then when you run out of
Mm.
it, you hit the box and it puts it back on the list. It's the
Okay.
easiest thing, right? It's something
I might have to check it
right?
out because
So
that would be
simple.
good.
Yeah. And so I use that. And then we use the calculator on my phone. So I have my son go find the item and then look at the price. And then he punches the price into my calculator, right? So I give him jobs to do. And then my son loves math. So I make sure I give him all the math things. Like he loves
Mm-hmm.
math. So I taught him about unit price. And people are like, what the heck is that? Right. So unit price is like when you buy something by the pound, right? So like chicken, use that as an example, right? So when you buy meat by the
Mm-hmm.
pound, you look at the package and it'll say $3.49 per pound, right? Or produce,
Yeah.
68 cents per pound for bananas, right? And so he can actually calculate in his head when he goes to get the bananas or whatever,
I
he'll go
wish.
weigh it, right? I can.
Yeah.
He can do it. It's awesome. So that's why I use a calculator, but that's why they were invented. But no, he's like a math whiz. So I let him do all the
Mhm.
math things. He enjoys that. So like you figure out what do your kids like and let them go do that. Right. So I'll have him go weigh the produce and then he figures it out in his head and he puts it in the calculator and then we add it up and we go from, aisle to aisle to aisle. We get the fig, we put in the price and I teach him things as we go along. Right. And I always tell him, look, these are life lessons that you need to know. These are really important things so that as you get older, these are things we need to know that like our parents never really taught us. Right.
Mm-mm.
You're just expected to run a household all of a sudden. Like you're an adult now. Good luck.
Yeah.
you know? And so it's like these little things that mean so much. And money is so big. It's such a big part of it. And like you can even like like one day I live in a cul-de-sac and I was looking out the window and I saw the truck, the meter reader guy for the water meter outside and he was
Yeah.
driving and he got out of the truck and he was going to the houses and my son was like, who is that guy? And so we went outside and we actually said hello to the water meter reader and he was explaining to us how he does it and he showed us like this is what the meter says. And so now every month we go out there and we check the number and then we look at our bill to see if it matches. And it's really cool. And so it's little things like that, just little things of like, this is what we need to know around the house. And I mean, there's so much. There's so many little things that
Yeah.
you can do with the kids. And then as they get older, teaching them how to run the households and how money is so important for them to start saving now because they can pay for their own college. They could buy their own car. They don't have to start life with student loans. There's so many things that they can know.
I love that. I love that. And your mission is truly important. Where can my listeners find you?
The easiest place to find me is at my website, momswhomoney.com. You can find me
Mm.
everywhere from there at my podcast as well, which is also called Moms Who Money.
Oh, I love that. So you have a podcast as well.
I
That's
do. Yes.
awesome. When did you start that?
A little over 2 years ago.
Oh, I love it. I love
Yes.
it. I love it.
Yes.
What are you grateful for?
I am grateful for every day that I wake up and I get to spend time with my son. He is my best friend. He makes my life just so filled with joy.
I love that. Well, thank you for coming on the show and sharing your wisdom with us.
Thank you so much for having me today, Francie. This was
And it
fun.
was all last minute. I love
Yeah, I
it.
love it. Love it.
Oh, thank you so much for listening to another episode of Life with Francie podcast. You can find it in all major platforms as well as my YouTube channel. You know how it goes. Like, subscribe, share to help this girl out. You will find the links of my guests and more in the description of the episode. Hope you have a blessed day. Bye bye.